Today we are doing some recipes that are really near and dear to my heart. A few years ago, back in 2019, I had put out some veganized fast food recipes, and those recipes really put me on the map. They went viral on Instagram. They were loved by so many people, and it's been a long time since we have done veganized fast food and even looked at some of these recipes. So I figured it would be fun to go back, revisit them, make them again, make some new ones, and I'm really excited to share these recipes with you. As always, the full burnout recipes are on the blog, link in the description box down below for that. I link anything you may need for the recipes, and I write the ingredients down below. So let's go make some veganized fast food.
We are going to be starting off with, I think, my favorite one, the vegan Crunchwrap Supreme. We're going to start by making a delicious vegan nacho cheese sauce. So we need to boil cashews, potatoes, and carrots. I'm using Yukon Gold potatoes, so we'll boil that for 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we are going to saute some chopped up Vidalia onion, or you could use a white onion, in olive oil. Saute for about 5 minutes until the onions start to turn translucent and smell fragrant. Then I'm going in with the Impossible meat, the ground meat, and I'm going to cook that up for a few minutes over a medium heat until it starts to turn from red to brown. We're going to go in with some taco seasoning to add flavor, and while it cooks, if I notice it's looking a little dry, I will continuously add in about 1 to 2 tablespoons of water at a time. This just keeps everything moist and makes it delicious. Once everything's done boiling, add it into your blender with some vegan cheddar shreds, non-dairy milk, nutritional yeast, and salt, and you will mix this up, blend it until it is creamy and smooth. If you need to add in a little more liquid to help, you can. Because I used baby potatoes, I didn't peel them, so you may see a few dots of the skin, but I don't really care. I don't mind. If you're using a big potato, you can obviously peel it. Now you will need a few things. We need street taco size tortillas. We need large burrito size tortillas. I'm using carb balance ones because that's what I like. And we need some tortilla chips, or you could use tostadas as well. We need shredded lettuce. We need chopped tomatoes, and we need vegan sour cream. I'm using foragers. So I'm going to use the small tortilla as a guide for not to expand my filling outward from there. Use it as a radius guide, a circumference guide. So I am going to add my vegan meat. Then we're going to do the vegan cheese sauce. Then we are going to add our tortilla chips, or you can go in, like I said, with the tostada. And then we will add vegan sour cream. And you could also use vegan Greek style yogurt in here if you'd rather use that. And then we will add our lettuce, tomatoes, and I forgot to do it with this one, but you add in more vegan cheese sauce on top. And then you will add the little tortilla on top. And now we just fold it into the classic hexagon shape. So I just kind of fold an edge down, and then I start making pleats and folds. And I find it easier if then you flip it so that the folded side is down while you make the other ones. Repeat the process until all are made. I'm going to spray them with spray oil, and then we are going to bring them to a pan that also has olive oil in it. And we are just going to cook them for about 5-ish minutes per side on a medium heat until they start to turn nice and golden brown. This will seal them. This gets everything warmed up inside, and oh my goodness, they're so delicious. Every time I make this recipe, I am just reminded of truly how good they are and how fun it is to make them. It's a little labor intensive, of course, because there's a lot of steps, but it's so well worth it. And they're really delicious. They are great to keep in the fridge and so yummy. You got to let me know if you've made these in the past. Next up, we're making mozzarella sticks, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to air fry or deep fry, but first we got to make our breadcrumbs. So I have some breadcrumbs that I'm seasoning with paprika, salt, garlic powder, and parsley. I'm going to mix this up. I'm using my homemade vegan mozzarella recipe that I showed you guys 2-3 weeks ago, the cashew mozzarella. So I've made that already. Then we are going to cut this into 10 pieces. You can cut these as big or as small as you like. 10 felt good to me, so 10 was what I did. And after they're all cut, now it's time to bread them. So I have some non-dairy milk right here. I'm always using Ripple. That's usually what I use, but you could use any one. I always say to steer away from coconut because it might flavor it. So put it in the non-dairy milk, coat it, then coat it in the breadcrumbs, and we're going to do a double breading on this. So after we get it nice and coated in the breadcrumbs, we will go back into the non-dairy milk and then back into the breadcrumbs again. I like doing this because it really ensures that we got a nice, good breading on our mozzarella sticks. And I like to have a wet hand and a dry hand. I personally like to keep my dominant hand the dry hand because I feel like it's doing more work. So whatever you want to do, but it helps to make things a little bit less messy. Another alternative is you can also roll the the mozzarella stick around like I'm doing right here. So it keeps your hands a little bit less messy and coats everything, but then just make sure to kind of plop the ends in so they get coated as well. And that's it. It's a little bit of a tedious process, but then they're done. Pop these into the freezer for about at least 6 hours. So that way they get really frozen, but overnight is kind of best. And then for air frying, I will spray them very generously with spray oil. The sunlight was really making those look very smoky. And I'm not kidding, very generously, because we're not deep frying them, but you want them to be nice and golden. And then we're going to pop them into the air fryer baskets. And I have one that has double, but if you don't have that, you'll just do them one at a time, And you can also just keep these in the freezer, and then when you're ready to eat them, you could do that. So they're in there. We're going to air fry them at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 12 minutes. And then when they're all done, they'll look like this. Be careful, they will be really hot and they might be a little gooey and melty and they might break apart, but you know what? They're delicious and they're completely homemade, which is really cool. Pair it with your favorite tomato sauce and they're good to go. I also like to add a little extra spray oil sometimes just so they really look glistening and really, really yummy. So good this way. The other way we could do it is we could deep fry. So I have a cup of vegetable oil here, and I like to do this in a small pot. I tested my piece of little bread first to make sure the oil was hot enough. And then once I knew it was hot enough, I'm going to add in my mozzarella sticks. I like to use a smaller pot so I can use less oil. It makes deep frying feel less intimidating to me, but if you want to use a bigger pot, use a bigger pot. So deep fry them for about 5 minutes until they turn nice and golden brown on a medium-high heat. And then you'll put them on a paper towel lined dish and then they'll be done, and they'll be equally as delicious, if not more, because sometimes deep frying things is better. And you can see the color is more beautiful, but obviously air frying them is just as delicious. And either way, it's just so fun to make homemade vegan mozzarella sticks. These aren't as gooey and stretchy like as a typical mozzarella stick, but they're so delicious. And if you're having that craving, it just really hits the spot. So those are the air fried ones. So you could see the difference, but either way, so good, so yummy. Next up, we're making tofu tenders. So we're going to start by making a little marinade. So we got non-dairy milk, pickle juice, poultry seasoning, garlic powder, and onion powder. Whisk this up and we'll set this to the side while we cut our tofu. I'm using super firm tofu here. If you use extra firm, you will want to press it beforehand. And I'm going to cut the tofu in half, take it out, and then we will cut it into 8 pieces. Now, after you cut them all, this next step is optional, but if you want to round the corners just to give them a little bit more of a tendery shape that's less of a rectangle, you can. And then I like to also air fry those corners, or you could just put them in the fridge and then use them in like a stir fry or a scramble or something. So that's just the comparison between the rectangle versus the rounded out sides. Then we're going to put all that tofu in the marinade. You want to let it marinate for at least 20 to 30 minutes. But again, if you want to let it go overnight, the flavor will of course just develop even more. And we're using pickle juice because that's what a lot of fast food places actually use in their brines, and it adds saltiness and vinegar. So pickle juice is great. While that's marinating, we're going to make our flour outside. So I'm doing cornstarch and all-purpose flour. Both of those work together to make a nice outside. And then we have paprika, salt, garlic powder, onion powder. Mix this up. So now we're going to take our piece of tofu, we're going to plop it right in there. We're going to coat it nicely. And on this one, we were also going to do a double breading. So then we're going to go back right into the marinade actually. So this is easy because we're just going to go right back in there since we already made it. Let's not waste it. And we'll get it wet again. And then we're going to go right back in to the flour. And the nice thing about this is as the marinade drips into the flour, it's what helps promote that outside crispy bit texture on the tender. So a little bit of liquid getting in there is actually really good. Once we get to the end, like so, I just try my best to keep scraping the plate. If you feel you want to add a little bit more flour, you definitely can, but it's good. Like you don't really need to add more if you don't want to. Just be a little patient with yourself. But as you can see, all those little bits that are kind of hanging off that look half wet, those are what adds really nice crispiness to this. So they're all coated and we'll be ready to go. And then we'll also coat our little tofu pieces as well. For them, I threw a little bit more flour into the dish just to coat them. And then just like we did with the air frying of the mozzarella sticks, we will generously spray with spray oil and get everyone nice and coated and get the oil covered on everything. So I will spray one side very generously, and then we will put these into the air fryer basket on the side down that I sprayed already. So then the unsprayed side is up. So then that way I can spray the other side. Super simple, easy. So I did 3 at a time because they're bigger, and then we will air fry these at 350 Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. And the other thing I just want to say about air fryers is everyone's air fryer can run differently, so you might need to adjust your cooking times depending on your air fryer. To make a super simple sauce, I took some vegan sour cream and like 2 to 3 tablespoons of that marinade and mixed it up, and this was really yummy. It was kind of like a dill ranch, really good. Just a fun alternative to ketchup. So then once our little tofu tenders are done, they look beautiful, and I will do the same thing. I will just kind of like see if there's any dry patches, and I'll give them another spray with the oil. But these come out so good. They're so tasty, so delicious. They're really fun. It's a fun way to eat tofu. We'll add our sauce on there, and then you could also do a little bit of flaky sea salt if you like on top. I feel like it just adds a little bit of fanciness. You could chop up some scallions or parsley, or obviously just eat them plain, dip them in ketchup or barbecue sauce or whatever, and call it a day. And they're so good. I like also making them and then having them in the fridge to use for salads and wraps and things like that. They're really delicious. And of course, if you want to deep fry them, you can. And here are our gorgeous little pieces as well. Finally, we're finishing off with a vegan Big Mac. So let's make special sauce. We need vegan mayo, ketchup, relish, onion powder, apple cider vinegar, and maple syrup. Mix this up until it comes unified and it's a beautiful sauce. Delicious. Now, we're going to take some dehydrated minced onions and we are going to rehydrate them. I know that McDonald's apparently does this because when I made the Big Mac originally, people told me that they don't actually use chopped onion, which was what I did. They do this. So that's why we're doing this. But you can also just use chopped onions or don't even do it at all. It's your vegan Big Mac. Going to use the Beyond Meat burger, cutting it in half so we get 2 thinner patties from 1 big patty. I'm going to spray my little pan, and then I'm just going to press down the patty. If it sticks to your spatula, that's okay. Just kind of gently pull it off. To season, I have garlic powder, black pepper, salt. So I'm just going to swirl it all around, sprinkle a little bit on one side, then I'll save some and I'll sprinkle them on the other side of the patties. After they cook for a few minutes and they're ready to be flipped, we will flip them, add more seasonings, and you can just cook these to your desired doneness. I like things a little more cooked. So now we can assemble our vegan Big Mac. So we're going to do bottom bun, we're going to do special sauce, we're going to go in with lettuce, then we're going to go in with our vegan cheese. I'm using Follow Your Heart, and then we're going to add a slice of that. Then we're going in with 1 burger patty, the minced onions that are now rehydrated. Then we got another bottom bun. Then we have more special sauce, and as you can see, I'm kind of pressing these down as we go. So more special sauce, more lettuce. Now it's time for some pickles. I'm using kosher dill. I'm using the slices, or you could also just buy them and cut yourself. The other burger patty, more minced onions, and then finally the top bun. And then because I don't have a sesame seed bun, I spray it with a little oil, and then I add my sesame seeds, and there we go. Now we have a beautiful vegan Big Mac. So good, so fun. So I hope you enjoyed these recipes. As always, all the full written out recipes are on planfullybasedblog.com. Everything's linked in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more videos.